Hooty hoo, all my stock market gamblers. Welcome today. I'm Tall Mike. I'm so glad you're here. What do we got going on? The markets, they're still on a tear. They're trying to make the new highs. New high almost every day, right? The QQQ, new highs. NASDAQ, the S&P, SPY, new highs every day, right? Okay, here's the thing. Now I want to look back to the year 2000, right? The dot-com boom. It was just booming day after day after day. There was a company, Cisco Systems, right? Okay, this was going to become the first trillion-dollar company. I don't know the exact valuation, but it was up there around 600 billion. You know, if it doubled again, it would have become the first trillion-dollar company. Well, that was where the top was. It never became a trillion-dollar company. Still not today, not a trillion. Still not even back to that 600 billion valuation, thereabouts where it was back then. All these years, and it hasn't gone high. Right now, let's talk about this. What was the first trillion-dollar company? What was the first one? Well, it was Apple Computer. Apple Computer. When did they make their first $1 trillion in market valuation? This is the valuation of what the company's worth. 2018 to become a $1 trillion company. Now, that's fascinating to me. Apple was the very first one, right? Now, think about it. Okay, today, they're a $3 trillion company. Okay, so it took about, let's just call it 50 years. 50 years of being in business to reach the first trillion. How long to get to the second trillion? About 3 years, 2021, right? Okay, how long to get to the third trillion, 3 trillion? About another 2 or 3 years, right? It's increasing faster. Now, how's this possible? See, we didn't even have a $1 trillion company in 2018. Now we have 3 companies that are worth over $3 trillion each, $9 trillion, $10 trillion roughly, because they're all over $3 trillion. We got NVIDIA, we got Microsoft, we got Apple. These 3 companies are worth $10 trillion. Now, did their business really grow this quickly in the last 3 or 4 years? See, I don't see it that way. What I see it as is the printing of money, which sends liquidity into the stock market, and these companies just explode, right? $10 trillion just with 3 companies. Now, that's insanity in my opinion, but that's what happens. That's what happens when you print an extra $30 trillion, right? Okay, now here's the thing. We're continuing to print all this money, right? We're printing $1 trillion basically every 3 months, every 100 days, they say. $1 trillion extra dollars that we don't have. Now, if the economy is really doing so well, why are we printing this extra $1 trillion? Well, how else can we keep the stock market up here? How else can we keep housing prices up here? Now, I see the comments. I know I'm not that popular. I get that, and I'm okay with that. I'm not here to be popular. I'm here to give you a little bit of a warning. Now, if you don't want the warning, that's fine. You see, people, one comment, they called me Chicken Little. Tall Mike is just a Chicken Little of real estate. Really? I'm the Chicken Little of real estate. I love real estate. I believe in real estate. Real estate's been my life. I've made a lot of money in real estate, believe me. Okay, so the fact that I think it's a terrible time to buy, does that make me Chicken Little? I don't think it does, but if you think it's a good time to buy, run out and buy as many houses as you can. See, there was another guy that he was saying that, hey, money's cheap right now. We're at 7%, let's call it 7.5%, 8%, right, for a mortgage. And I would agree with him that money's relatively cheap. When you got inflation, real inflation, not the inflation they're admitting, the inflation government says down here about 3.4%, but real inflation's up here around 10%. And if you can borrow money below the cost of real inflation, well, you're borrowing at a negative interest rates. So money's still cheap here at 7, 8%, right, for a mortgage. So I agree with him on that comment, but he's saying to hurry up and buy now because the money's going to get more expensive, and I agree with him. Money's going to be more expensive soon. It's going to be 10, 12% for a mortgage, and I agree with him on that. But what I don't agree with him is that the houses are going to continue to go up when the mortgage rate hits 10 and 12%. He thinks the houses are going to double from here. He thinks I'm just Chicken Little. And that's okay, right? That's okay. Look at, if I were deciding between when I want to buy a house, do I want to buy a house now, or would have I rather bought a house back in 2007 at the record then? I would have rather bought back then. Much better. I mean, hindsight's, 2020, right? I mean, of course, they've gone up since then. We have a bigger bubble. Right now is a very dangerous time to buy. But Mike, the government's going to keep houses propped up. It's an election year. We can't have houses coming down. And I would agree with you. They're going to do everything they can to prop up houses. And that's why you never know what's going to happen, right? Maybe the government comes out with 100-year mortgage. Would you like a 100-year mortgage? Would you like that? A lot of people are going to take them when they come out with the 100-year mortgage. You know what else? Maybe they come out with a 100-year mortgage at 1% interest. How many houses do you want to buy now? Let's say houses are 5 million, 10 million, but you can get a 100-year mortgage at 1%, and the government might do that. You see, the government only has one thing that they do. There's only one thing that they can do to keep these asset bubbles propped up. And what is it? It's to print money. It's to add the liquidity necessary. If you print money and add the liquidity, yeah, you can probably keep the assets propped up, but that's their only tool, is to print this money. Now, what do they do with the money when they print? Well, they basically give it away, right? They pay for your student loan, right? They give you the 100-year mortgage at 1%. They give it away to the corporation so they can go buy the assets and keep the asset bubble inflated. Stock market, world's biggest bubble. Housing market, world's biggest bubble. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people misunderstand what I'm saying. I don't think the stock market's ready to come down yet. Not till we get below the 20-day. I think we're in the middle of a crack-up boom. A crack-up boom in this stock market and in housing markets. And I agree with you 100%. The government's going to do everything they can to keep the housing market propped up. Now, if they want it to come down, they could do some things that are logical and that would help people out. They could make it illegal for corporations to buy houses. They could make it illegal for foreigners to buy houses and make it easier for us Americans to own a house, but they don't want that. No, they want to prop it up, right? They want to give the free money out. They want to put the liquidity in, and they're going to need a lot of liquidity to keep this thing propped up. Now, here's why. What I want to talk today about is bankruptcies and banks. These are two different things. They're soon going to be one. The banks are going bankrupt. They're already bankrupt. They do not have your money. They've lost it. They've lost it with the bonds they owe. They lost it with the mortgage-backed securities of commercial real estate. Some of those are down 90% already. 90%. I mean, this is the money you gave them to protect for you. They don't have your money. As soon as the bank runs come, these banks are going to topple over one after another. I imagine hundreds of them will fail. That's just my opinion. Now, why do I think they'll fail? Because people cannot afford to make the payments that they signed up to make. Look, you signed up for the student loan. Can you make your payment? No, Biden's got to bail you out, and he probably will. All right, let's say you bought a car. Look, just 3 years ago, the average new car payment was close to about $600 a month. Now, just 3 years later, it's up here at $800 a month. But you need a new car, right? So you go buy the new car and you're paying $800 and you figure out, wow, I can't really afford this $800, so you go delinquent. You don't pay the bank back for the loan they gave you. What happens? Well, you can give them the keys back, or they're going to come and take your car. Repossession's about $10,000 to $20,000 a day right now. All right, the average mortgage, what happened to that? Okay, 3 years ago, about $1,600. Now it's up around $2,900. People go buy a house. You bought in the last year or two, your average mortgage up there around $2,900. All of a sudden you go, oh my God, I can't afford this. And you don't make your payments anymore to the bank. Bank's got some problems there, right? Because people aren't making their payments. What about credit card? Credit card debt's at a record high. But are people making the payment? No, they're not making the payment. So what have they done? Well, they got these new things. Buy now, pay later programs. These are worse than credit cards. Credit cards will run you almost 28, 29, 30%. But these buy now, pay later programs, these are for people that can't get the credit card. So what do they charge? margin, 40, 50%, right? If you amortize it out over a year, now they want you to buy now and pay next week on some things like groceries and stuff. That's what people are doing, right? They're trying to just survive. They're trying to just make it in the world. Okay, so a lot of these problems are coming back to roost, right? The banks made these loans. Nobody's paying them back. The banks already lost your money, but now nobody's paying them back. These banks are going, I feel sorry for them a little bit. You know, isn't that weird? Feeling sorry for the banksters, but they're going to topple down. But don't worry. They're going to be okay because me and you get to bail them out. But you see, here's the thing. But Mike, the FDIC bails them out. No, well, the FDIC's broke too. Isn't that shocking? The FDIC's broke. They don't have the money. They have less than 1 cent, less than a half a cent for every dollar you have on deposit. Yeah, they can handle when one bank at a time goes down. You watch when 100 banks go down, they can't handle it, right? So one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to do a bail-in with your money, the depositor's money, or they're going to print money into oblivion. And it doesn't matter that you get your money back because your money's not going to be worth anything. What you got to do? What you got to do? I keep saying it. You got to protect yourself because this is going to be falling over soon. Money is going to go to zero. All fiat currency goes to zero. Money goes away. It's not real. It's not a real thing, right? It's a fiat currency, not backed by anything. Backed by confidence. People still have a little confidence. They'll take a little bit of payment for the debts in the currency right now. People have a little confidence in Bitcoin. They'll trade that amongst them. Kind of going down a little bit right now. But they still have confidence. People think that the digits on a screen, you know, was 75, now it's 65, but they're still getting a little confidence there, right? But these are both fiat currencies, not backed by anything, not real. You want things that are real. You want things that have weight to them. How much weight does a Bitcoin have? Have you ever weighed a Bitcoin? I don't know. I've never weighed a Bitcoin. It doesn't have much weight though. You want to measure your money in ounces and pounds. Pounds of silver, ounces of gold. This will protect you. This is real, right? You want to get out of the fiat system. And, Bitcoin's fiat, the currency's fiat. All fiat systems have always gone to zero. They're going to go to zero. It's a question of when. Now, I think there's going to be an overnight reset. I think it's going to happen in the blink of an eye. You want to prepare. Look at, I'm like just Chicken Little, right? I'm just Chicken Little out there trying to warn a few people, and then maybe a few people open up their eyes a little bit and go, what if he's right? What if he's wrong? If he's right, well, I'm going to be a rich person. If he's wrong, I'm going to be sitting on all this silver I stacked, right? A lot of people don't get that. You keep stacking silver now, you don't have much to lose. Silver is a very cheap asset right now. It's about half the price it was in 1980. We're at 2024, 44 years later. It is dirt cheap, and it's real money. It can save you. It can save you a lot of pain, a lot of heartache. I get worried about the banks. I don't have a lot of money in the banks. I have too much in the banks. I will say that. I do have too much in the banks, and I pull a little out here and there. You got to have some dry powder. I really don't know where to store the dry powder. You can put it in the T-bills, short term, 3 to 6 month T-bills, get about 4 or 5% on your money, and that's where, I keep a lot of the dry powder because there's going to be some deals. I'm not saying gold and silver can't go down. I'm hoping and praying they go down. I've got some dry powder ready to go. Let's go. Let's knock them down. Let's knock that gold price down. Knock that silver price down. Because when they go, it's going to be overnight. A lot of people, they get excited. Gold's up, a couple $100. They get all excited. You haven't seen nothing yet. Look at silver, about $30 an ounce, right? But for every ounce of silver, there's 400 paper ounces. Then they think they own that 1 ounce that you're holding. You multiply that $30 by 400, what do you get? I don't know. You get about $12,000. Can silver go to $12,000? I'm telling you, it can. I hope it doesn't, because the world's going to look really bad when all the derivatives blow up. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about here. You see, the banks have these things called derivatives. What do? They took your money. Anyways, they've gambled it. They bet it. They lost it. So now they have to get more leverage, right? They have to go more out on the risk curve. They have to get into risky things. Maybe they get leveraged in some Shiba Inu. Maybe they get leveraged in some Dogecoin. Maybe they just put it all in Bitcoin. point? I don't know, but they have to get levered. But there's derivatives, and these derivatives are not 1-to-1. They're 10-to-1, 20-to-1, 30-to-1, some as much as 100-to-1, where they take $1 of your money and they go bet it and they just hope and pray that they can get your money back, because they've already lost your money. Every bank out there is insolvent. They're going to be going bankrupt. But here's another thing that's going to be hurting the banks, right? A lot of these corporations, they're called zombies, right? Zombies don't bring in enough money to even make their interest payment. What's the problem with that? Well, the interest payment on their loan, the loan is coming due. Now, they're already behind on their interest payment because they got to borrow more money, but the main loan is coming due. Let's say they have 50 million or 50 billion. Doesn't really matter. Let's say that loan's coming due, right? Okay, so that loan's coming due. Well, they were getting that loan at 1% and 2%. See, the Fed was giving all the cheap money away, but 3 years later, they got to refinance that loan. Now, maybe they still get a preferred rate. What would a preferred rate be? I don't know, 6-7%, right? So they go from 1-2% to 6 and 7%. They're instantly out of business overnight. You see the corporate bankruptcies are spiking, but it's worse. It's worse than that, because the banks, they get stuck with this. They don't have any way to get their money back, so they have to write that off the books. Right now, that loan is on the books at 100%. They're saying we haven't lost a penny yet. Well, that company just went bankrupt. You've lost it all. You don't have money. So the banks are going to be going bankrupt because of the bankruptcies. The bankruptcies are in the corporations. Corporations are going to be falling over. Can you imagine if 20% of the companies and the S&P just go out of business? Oh, but Mike, we got NVIDIA. It's going to hold the market up. We don't even need those 20% of companies. We don't need them, Mike. We got NVIDIA. We got Apple. We got Microsoft. These are going to the moon. We don't need these other companies. Let them go bankruptcy. They're just a waste of time anyways. Well, you see that what happens when 100 of the S&P 500 go bankrupt, you're going to have a Great Depression. You're going to have the market drop about 80%, and that's going to bring houses down at least 50%. This is just my take. I know it's negative. I'm Chicken Little. Maybe that's why I'll change my channel to Tall Mike is now called Chicken Little, and that's okay. I don't mind being Chicken Little. I don't think I'm afraid enough because I see what's coming. To me, it's just common sense, but when I talk to people, they just look at you with this glazed stare. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to know about it. They want to put their head in the sand and just think that mainstream media has this wired because that's telling them it's the best economy ever. If you like this stuff, punch the subscribe button. Get out there, everybody. Have a great day. We'll talk again real soon. Bye-bye now.